in terms of playing creatively at the piano, which is what we talk about here at Piano Picnic, you might be wondering where scales fit into that whole thing, because scales are definitely something we associate with classical and with traditional piano. So today I'm going to talk a little bit about, you're probably going to guess, they are very, very useful. There are benefits to using them, several benefits, but we're not going to use them in an ordinary way. We're going to twist it, make it a little bit more fun for you to play them. Some of the benefits that we get with playing scales. Learning scales is essentially learning keys. So as Malcolm was saying before, it's hard to remember which notes go in each scale. That's totally true. But the thing is, when you do memorize them and you can figure it out, then you've unlocked not just scales, but keys in general. And if you know your major and minor scales really well, then you're going to be so great at playing songs in different keys, whether that be major or minor. You look at a key signature, you go, oh, I know how to play that scale. And then off you go, and it comes a little bit more naturally. The second benefit is that the scales provide us a foundation for creative play. Scales are often featured in songs. It's not something that's exclusive to just being an exercise that we do at the piano. Sometimes we have either whole scales or portions of scales, smaller bits of scales, in the pieces that we play. So that's one thing, but also we can insert them into our creative playing. So whether we are playing from a lead sheet, whether we are improvising, whether we're writing our own song, we can use scales for all sorts of different things. We can use a scale for a melody. So if my song was in the key of C, I might choose to use a descending scale for part of my melody. Gosh, what an instant classic, right? But that's just using a portion of a scale as a way to start writing the melody. I might decide to change that up a little bit, make it a little bit more syncopated to make it interesting. But the scale. So knowing my fingering for that descending scale is obviously helpful for me to be able to play that melody easily. So songwriting and also improvisation. It's great as a little run. You might decide to do a fast scale or a fast portion of a scale as a run to do in your improvising. And it's a great way to sort of show off, because if you already know how to do the scales quickly, then it gives you a framework to do a fast passage within some improvising. Something also that obviously you can bring to your creative play, your improvising, as a little run, as a way to fill in between chords or provide some interest or wake up the audience or whatever it is that you need to be doing. So the third benefit is we are going to exercise. We're exercising the fingers. So that's the one that everyone probably knows. When we're playing scales, the technique itself and the way we use our fingers, the thumb under, the 3-finger over, and in chromatics, we're doing a lot of small movement between the thumb and the 3-finger. All those movements are really good for dexterity in our hands. So those are 3 benefits. Learning scales is learning keys. Learning scales provides a foundation for our creative play. And thirdly, it gives us some exercises to do with our fingers that are actually useful in other ways. Now, speaking of useful in other ways, there's going to be 5 different ways that we can shake up our scale practice that you can do today. Number 1, the first double up for our practice value is we're going to play the scales plus we're going to practice dynamics. So you might start loud and gradually get quieter. and then get louder. That sort of control is really, really good for you to do, especially rather than just an octave apart, do them a bit further and perhaps try one hand quiet and one hand loud. And then swap it over. That sort of control, you can see me looking up in the corner of the corner of my brain to try and get my left and right working with that technique. So that's a really good thing to practice. The second thing is we are going to double up by using scales and articulation. So articulation is when we are changing the way that we play the note, not what the note is, the way that we play it. So legato is nice and smooth. And that's one of the first techniques you want to master when you're playing scales, because if you can't play it smoothly, then it's going to mess everything up. As well as legato, we also want to be doing staccato, which is very short. Right? Short, but not necessarily hard. If we want to do it short and hard, that's a whole different thing as well. So we can mix up those different articulation techniques as a way to bring more control and that left-right brain working when we're doing scales. So try for a few notes legato, then staccato, then heavier, okay? Maybe legato up and staccato down. The next ones we have is making it fun with rhythm. So swing is the first one. Let's try and swing the rhythm instead of going 1, 2, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and we're going to go 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4 E and a 1 E and a 2 E and a 3 E and a 4. Okay, so that's long, short, long, short. And in fact, rather than being a swing, that's actually more of a dotted crotchet quaver rhythm. This is a swing. Okay, so you've got that sort of skip. Just makes it a little bit more interesting. What else have we got? Half time. So 1, 2, 3, 4. Half the value. 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2. Okay, so what you're doing is every time you're halving the value. So first it's one whole beat, and then it's quavers, then it's semi-quavers, and then you could do demi-semi-quavers. However you want to play with that and mix up the rhythms, it's making a conscious decision in your mind and following through and having the dexterity in your fingers to carry that out. And then the last one is just to go gradually getting faster and then slower again. So and gradually getting slower. Okay, and then you can make that as dramatic as you want. Okay, so in that way we're doubling up. In fact, we're playing the scale, we're learning the fingering, we're learning the notes, and then we're also practicing all our different techniques that we need to be able to bring interest into the way that we play. So that's 5 ways. That is today's training. We talked about the 3 main benefits of playing scales and 5 ways that you can use at home today or tomorrow to take the stale out of your practicing scales. Now, if you don't know any scales yet and you have no idea about the fingering techniques, I recommend just trying with your general C major, which is of course all the white keys. And don't worry so much about the fingering this week unless you already know it. If you don't know your fingering for your major scale, you have to come to next week's Facebook training just like this, same time next week, because we'll go over some of those basic scales. Reason we're talking about scales today is because at the end of the month, our monthly coaching is going to be on sensational scales. And we're taking this even further. We're going to be learning about all the different types of scales that you need to know, your 7-note scales and maybe some 5-note scales as well. We're going to be talking about the technique to play them, even more creative ways to practice them, and how to specifically use them in your creative playing. So improvising, songwriting, all that sort of thing. So we've got next week's free Facebook training, and that will, plus this, will give you everything you need to know, even if you've never been near a scale before in your life. It's going to give you everything you need to know to come to this coaching at the end of the month. If you want to get in, all you have to do is become a creative pianist. That's the only way you can get access. I used to have other ways you could buy it separately, blah, 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 but I got bored of all the admin. Sign up at the URL just there. You can go there and begin your journey. A lot of you guys who are here today are already creative pianists. Thank you so much for taking that step for yourself, and also for giving me a job to do. Yeah, we'll see you next week. Have a wonderful week. Make sure you remember to play it like you mean it.